Hey guys, I want to show you how to start the last part of this project, which is where you're going to basically take an image we have here, and I'm going to click on this, and this is actually on slide 11, so if I click slide 11, it brings me here. There are several choices to use. I'm going to download this really cool skull here, and if I click on it, just the skull itself, and click open link, it's going to take me directly to that image in Drive. I didn't take this photo, as you can see, but we're using it for reference, so I think that's going to be okay. Not copying it, I'm using it as a reference image. So I'm going to go ahead and download that and go back to Fresco, and here's Fresco. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and create a new image, and when I do this, think a little bit about this. If I click letter, right, and I use it the way it is, it's a portrait image, and that skull is horizontal. So actually, let me go back to home for a second and go back to letter. Let me show you, not now. Let me go back and do this and hold this down. Actually, I'm going to click, click underneath letter. I know that there's a way. Let me go to, it's just being stubborn, people. I keep opening up you see this? I've opened up like 3 documents. All right, I did this before. Let me see, go to create new, go to print. Oh, there we go. Okay, so you have to do it this way. So underneath letter, you see there's a little arrow, and it says switch to landscape. So I'm going to switch it to landscape because, think about this, right? If I click on that and open this up, that's the shape the image of the skull is. In other words, if I open this up and I put the image here of the skull, which is very lovely, right there, and I go ahead and stretch it out, it makes so much more sense for it to fit here. Whereas, just to make this painfully obvious, right, if I click on this one, right, this size image, and again I import this skull, again from photos. I think you've already figured out what I'm saying here, right? There's just no, like, it doesn't fit. Okay, so just kind of use your best judgment and do that. Now the next step is, once you have this imported, and it might not fit exactly, and later on we'll talk about cropping it or whatever. Right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the image, which is on this layer, and why is it not letting me move it around? Well, whatever. And I'm going to, on this layer, I'm going to click it looks like it's underneath layers, you see there. I'm going to take the opacity and kind of bump this down a little bit. And then I'm going to very deliberately make sure I'm working on a new layer. So when I start to like add my color and my values in here, so maybe I'm going to come in with like a wet brush. And maybe I'm going to do, watercolors, but I'm going to start with transparent to kind of get the paper wet. I don't know if you remember this from before. And like I can do water flow, I can do so many different things here. So I'll kind of do that, and I'm going to make my brush nice and big. And it doesn't look like I'm doing anything. I know you can't see my hand, but I'm actually painting water all over this. But what I just did here is, if I come back now, bump this back up, and I'm going to grab the color blue, a nice cool color, and again with a wet brush here, and I think I'll do watercolor soft. Why? Because I feel like it, and I'm not sure what this is going to look like size wise, but I'm working on it. See how I can kind of have that spread out, and you just have to be careful because you see how it spreads out into like areas beyond the skull. But I can go back and fix that later on. Like I can come back now, and either on a new layer or on the same layer, I can adjust that. So I could, on the same layer, maybe I'm going to come in again with a light yellowish color here. I don't know, something like that, or an orangish color. And you see how I can I can bump this back. All right, so I don't want to spend too long telling you guys what to do. I can also reduce the flow, so if I don't want it to kind of spread out as much, I can do that. I guess that's more of an opacity. Oh, water flow, there we go. So I'll do the flow at 100%, but I'm going to do water flow only 6. And so when I bump this in here, it doesn't spread out as much. So I'm noticing that if I bump the water flow up and I press, see how it spreads out more? But if I bump the water flow down, it doesn't, well, I'm still working on this, but it supposedly doesn't do that. And then as I come over here, you know, maybe I'm gonna eventually grab, you know, a warmer color to kind of bring in here. So I'm playing around with hot and cold colors, and obviously I'm gonna have to use different brush sizes. Like, it makes no sense to work on the teeth with such a large brush. So maybe I'm gonna come in again with something much darker, obviously, maybe like a dark purple, but a very, very significantly smaller brush size to kind of just generally get that in there. And then as I work on this, I can kind of modify it. Okay.